Good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo. What's up, Joe Boo and Joe Bayer in the house? And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys and you ladies, this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up the football gods. You know, it sucks. Another Sunday without football, but don't look at it and be sad. Don't be sad. Think of it this way. Every Sunday without football gets us one step closer. And come tomorrow, the OTAs, the virtual reality by the looks of, OTAs will start tomorrow. That's right. They're going to start working out. Still no final word on the Dallas Cowboys players on whether or not they are boycotting the in-person workouts and things directly. They've been actually kind of quiet on here. You know what's kind of interesting is I do not proclaim to be an insider, although I do know some people. People do talk to me about things from time to time. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm Joe the fan here, from not my mama's basement. This is actually my basement. Okay, well, mine and my wife's. And actually, the bank they also own it too till we finish paying off. And I think we got a long ways to go. So from mine, my wife, and the bank's basement here, I'm broadcasting you talking about what I know about football and my theories. And sometimes you believe something is true. And, you may not have the evidence in front of you, but you believe it's true. And I think I've actually done several videos explaining this. And here it is. Brad Gagin, who did an article. It's on Bleacher Report. So, when this makes it to the internet, everything on the internet is always true. But he went through and did a great article this morning on why trading up for a quarterback in the NFL draft is almost always a bad idea. I've said the same thing too. Very rarely it seems like teams that make these blockbuster mega trades end up having the future Hall of Famer. That's a fact. I can even look at it wasn't for a quarterback, but I can look at Morris Claiborne's trade up, where we took a second and a first, we packaged it up, and we said we're getting the best defensive player in the draft. Morris Claiborne, he had a long career. He's got a Super Bowl ring because he went to Kansas City. But for us, he was just never able to stay healthy and to stay on the field. And for what we gave up, and here's my thing on here, when you trade up, it's not just that you miss on one guy. You potentially miss on two guys or three or four, or however many players it ends up being. And when you think about teams that have done it, the team, it seems like, that makes the move targeting that one guy is usually in worse shape than the team that they traded with. Give you an example. Let's just think back for a couple of these. The Eagles traded originally with, I want to say, Tampa Bay to move up. And then they traded with the Browns to move up even further to get Carson Wentz. They moved up twice. You can look at the Cleveland Browns that ended up getting all that draft capital. Look at the team that they have right now. You look at how well and how young that team is and how capable it is, versus where the Eagles are, which are completely having to rebuild. And what trading up did to the Eagles was it ended up forcing them to do more free agents, which isn't a bad thing. I wish that Cowboys would actually, find a happy medium from going hog wild in free agency into, just being scared to death. But they ended up building a roster full of free agents. They got a bloated roster with players that were past their prime, like Deshaun Jackson, and overpriced, and ended up being cap hell and basically have to start all over. You can look at the Jets that traded with the Colts to move up to get Sam Darnold. Colts, by a long shot, are in a lot better position than the Jets are right now. And then, of course, you have the Rams and the Titans. The Rams are still really good team, but they're still kind of looking for that quarterback. And of course, giving up two more number ones for Matthew Stafford, we'll find out if this whole thing comes crashing down on him. But literally, Sean McVay is literally gambling all in on that one. But let's take a look at this article because it's actually really informative and makes you all of a sudden realize, wow, that's the odds of moving up to get that quarterback? Let's go through it. Great job, Brad. The San Francisco 49ers have already done this year, and there's speculation that quarterback-starved teams like New England Patriots, Denver Broncos, Chicago Bears, or Washington football team can try and do the same. I'm referring to the classic trade-up potential franchise quarterback. Such deals are often incredibly costly. The San Francisco 49ers parted with 2 extra first-round picks and a third-round selection merely to move up 9 spots atop of this month's draft, and it rarely pays off. In fact, most first-round trade-ups for quarterback turn out to be crippling mistakes. In the last 12 drafts, 16 of the 37 quarterbacks picked in the first round were selected by follow-up trades. 10 of those 16 were top 10 selections. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have been the success stories for the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills, respectively. But the same can't be said for Sam Darnold. Josh Rosen, Mitch Trubisky, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Robert Griffin III, Blaine Gabbert, and Mark Sanchez. Do you see that list? Let me read that again. These are all guys that teams traded up to get. Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Mitch Trubisky, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Robert Griffin III, Blaine Gabbert, and Mark Sanchez. Ouch. I dare say, though, butt fumble will live forever with the butt fumble. And he was actually, I think he actually helped Dak Prescott quite a bit when he was here as the backup quarterback. Wow. All 8 of those quarterbacks have to be considered bust by the teams that drafted them. None remains with the original team. Only Darnold, Goff, and Wentz remain as NFL starters. The jury's still arguably out on those 3, but they were all traded this offseason by teams that essentially gave up on them. Darnold and Rosen might have served as cautionary tales in 2018. Since then, 6 quarterbacks have been drafted within the top 25. But none of those picks have made the following. Were trade-ups. Here's the difference. Nobody reached for those guys. The only first-round trade-ups for a quarterback since the New York Jets missed on Darnold and the Arizona Cardinals missing on Rosen, the Green Bay Packers moved up for Jordan Love late in the first round of last year's draft. And there was, of course, speculation that he was going to be the heir apparent for Aaron Rodgers, and I think he stayed at third string. How does that 80% bust rate for trade-ups in the top 10 for quarterback compared to general rate in the top 10? The jury's still out with the 2020 top 10 selections: Joe Burrow, Tua, and Justin Herbert. But Burrow, Hubert, and the top 2019 pick Murray are off to strong starts. So when you look at those quarterbacks, those guys weren't reaches. So far, the one that you have to have concern about would be Tua. The only clear-cut bust about them, of course, is Haskins. Haskins, wow. So 80% bust rate for teams, for quarterbacks that teams go up to. So I think about, for example, RG3. Let's just take RG3 for a second. When you think about Washington, I remember them saying it. Oh, the Washington football team, they're set for the next 10 years at quarterback. They got their guy. 3 number ones in a second. The amazing thing is, if they had been set, they would still be playing in Washington for 2 more years. And you think about 3 number ones in a second, those should have been 4 players that should be on your team, none of which are. RG3's had a great rookie season. But you look at that, losing that first-round pick in that draft capital, it's a guy who is going to be dirt cheap for 4 years. It's talent. It sets you back. And when you think about how many quarterbacks Washington has gone through since RG3, fortunately, that same draft they drafted Kirk Cousins, who you could say has had a better career than RG3. But you think about the Alex Smiths, the drafting of the Dwayne Haskins. You think about signing a Heineke. You think about all of the quarterbacks that they've gone through. It's like a whole cascade over and over and over again. And they just can't seem to get that guy. It's like a quarterback wasteland. And so this is where it's kind of nice to see somebody else put this out here, where I've kind of said, people say, oh, we should trade up and get, Trevor Lawrence. And it's kind of like, are you crazy or just plain stupid? Because it just does not seem to work out. I can't think of very many times when teams have traded and given up a whole lot of draft capital that it's come back to them as that was a great move. And you can go all the way back to the Herschel Walker trade, which Minnesota thought they were just a running back away from winning the Super Bowl. And it ended up being that trade ended up leading to 3 Super Bowls for the Dallas Cowboys, and potentially could have been more had Jimmy Johnson not been fired. So with that being said, that's all I got for you this morning. It's quiet in Cowboys land as they hunker down for the draft. They're pretty much quiet. They ain't saying shit, right? They're not saying. Let's be clear. They're not saying shit. They're not signing anybody. They're not doing anything. They are just standing pat and getting ready for the draft. Hopefully, they will make the right selections. We'll have more, of course, leading up here because we are only 11 days, 10 hours, 4 minutes, and 30 seconds away from the draft. Tune in tomorrow night as we really start zeroing in on the draft. We'll be giving away another one of our Joe Barty trophies, and that reminds me I need to go out and paint some more. The work never ends. And I still have some more work to do on the outdoor studio here to get it ready for the show. So, with that being said, you know the drill. Coach here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Sports Report.